Okay. So anyway, sorry, I'm kind of scatterbrained today. So, today we're looking at quite a few things, but first we're going to take a look at Sargon's video, which came out 3 days ago, Joe Biden's zombie campaign. Sargon is quite convinced that Donald Trump is going to win the election. I think he thinks by a landslide for some reason, which makes the polling that is currently out very confusing to him because the polls indicate that Joe Biden is up not only nationally, but what's more important, because we have the Electoral College system here in the United States, Joe Biden appears to be up in many of the swing states that would be key to Trump's victory. So, Sargon's going to talk about why he thinks the polls are imaginary and that actually rally size and signage outside of homes in the middle of nowhere are actually good indicators of who's going to win the election. Now, let me be clear, before we even start this, I am not, I'm not the opposite of Sargon on this. I'm not going to come here and be like, oh, Joe Biden's definitely going to win, even with the polling that seems to indicate that that is the more likely outcome. We know what happened in 2016 with the polling. It was off by quite a bit because they failed to account for the number of uneducated white voters who came out. And I'm not saying that as derogatory. I mean uneducated as in non-college educated. I'm not calling them stupid. Although if I want to, colloquially, I will call them stupid, sure. But I'm just saying, literally within the polling, they weren't getting enough people who were non-college educated white people in the polls as to reflect the actual voters that came out in 2016. So there was like a four-point swing, roughly, towards Trump, which was enough in many states to get him that state and, of course, win the Electoral College. So, this election, supposedly a lot of pollsters have corrected for this. We'll see. We really won't know until the end of the election, one way or the other, especially after it'll take time to count, like, absentee ballots and stuff, and early voting. But I have more confidence in the polls than Sargon does. Let's put it that way. Even if polls are inaccurate, usually they're precise. And what I mean by that is accuracy is how close to the actual result you get. Precision is more about, do you get consistent results with your model even if you're off by a certain number. So polls are usually the best to show like trends, right? A single pollster, if we have their numbers moving in a specific direction, then you can generally tell there's a trend towards people gravitating towards one candidate or the other. Polls are always going to be just that. They're statistical models. They're not meant to be the end-all, be-all, but they are interesting and informative and can sort of give you a layout of where people stand today. So yeah, let's take a look after I read this message or whatever. Attack of the Nerd, thank you for following. Welcome to the stream. And Tucker White 94 calling it now. Sargon's entire argument will be, the polls are wrong, trust my feels. Probably. He's going to probably talk about campaign rally size, which is hilarious because Joe Biden is intentionally only having, like, you know, a dozen people at rallies, and they're all social distancing because Democrats actually, like, there are a lot of things to criticize about Democrats, but they actually take the pandemic seriously, which is not something to criticize.
I just can't believe the
Here we go.
conversation that's being had around the polling and the polling in general. This is the Real Clear Politics average of polls, and as usual, Biden is on about 50 and Trump is on about 42, which would imply that Joe Biden seems to have the edge and is going to win the next election.
I didn't use Real Clear Politics average. I look at 538, so let's look at Real Clear Politics as the Real Clear Politics poll average. I assume they're using maybe just national polls, though, which is a pretty inaccurate way of going about things. If we're looking at, like, the general election, since we don't have popular vote here in the States, we use the stupid Electoral College. Yeah, it looks like this is using national polling numbers, which I wouldn't look at this. This is why I look at 538, because their system bakes in more, like, state polling stuff and it uses the Electoral College. This appears to be just popular vote. But yeah, Biden is up nationally by quite a bit. Almost 10 points. Like 8 points. 7.7, actually, it says right here. Which is good if you don't like Donald Trump. We'll see what happens. But again, I wouldn't use Real Clear Politics. I'd use something like 538 that puts more weight on puts more weight on state polls and less on national polling.
and my lying eyes just won't allow me to believe it. There must be something going on here, and I don't know what it is, and
Guy Fieri DDD, Hannah, how do you describe your political ideology? Like, I think I have an idea of where you land, but I don't know whether you subscribe to a particular ideology. If you had to put me anywhere, probably, like, social democrat. Like, not, you know what I mean? I'm in favor of Bernie Sanders and stuff. And I'm even amenable to further left opinions than that, but I don't know.
Obviously nobody.
I don't know what I would specifically say. I think markets can be helpful, but I also recognize that very few individuals owning the businesses that function, the giant conglomerates within those markets, that's right, not a sustainable way to run a system, and I also think that the working class is getting effed over quite a bit. I want universal health care, I want access to college for people, I don't know. Put me wherever you think that is.
Tools of capitalism.
Tucker White 94 with 20 bits. Jesus tap dancing Christ. I thought he'd get more than 30 seconds before he resorted to feels.
Nobody else knows what it is, otherwise I wouldn't have to make this video because the answer would be manifested before us. So I guess we'll just have a look into it. I mean, like, if I didn't know the polls existed, go away advert, if I didn't know the polls existed, I probably wouldn't be aware that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are even campaigning, and if they were,
Sargon, you live inside a right-wing, like, media bubble. Obviously, you wouldn't. And also, a lot of their polling events, or not polling events, rather, their rallies and stuff, there's supposed to be very few people, intentionally, because of the pandemic. Guys, does Sargon know there's still a disease killing people? Did he forget?
I would say that their campaigns were dead in the water.
Democratic socialist? Sure, fine. If you think that fits me, great.
Kamala Harris recently went to North Carolina and inspired about 10 people to show up. 10 whole people. Right. I mean, I got better crowds than that when I was campaigning.
Sargon, they're not inviting tons of people to the rallies and stuff. They're intentionally having very small things and then broadcasting them or putting them on the internet because there's a disease. I don't know if you've been paying attention this year, Sargon, but there's this disease, COVID-19, over 225,000 dead people in America from it. The president caught it and needed to be airlifted to the hospital. Unfortunately, most Americans can't be airlifted to the nearest hospital to be given experimental treatments, so it makes sense to have small rallies where people are social distancing and wearing masks. If you're not an idiot and recognize that disease doesn't really care if you're doing a political rally or not, it's just going to spread if you're near other people. Like, I'd argue even these events with like 10, 11 people are kind of irresponsible. I understand why they feel the need to do it at all. I get it. But still, not a fan. Like, Sargon, the reason Trump's rallies are huge are because Republicans don't take this seriously. Which honestly is so weird. It makes me wonder if enough Republicans... There's got to be a statistical significance between, like, Republicans and Democrats, or people on the left and people on the right, if we're not talking about party affiliation, but more just, like, ideological slant. I wonder if it's killed more Republicans. Just because they're not taking it seriously, and they're putting themselves out there more. They're going out without masks. They're, like, going to gatherings like the Trump stuff, or going out to restaurants when they really shouldn't be. Like, is that enough of a statistical significant amount that it's notable and might hurt Trump in certain areas? I doubt it, but it's interesting to think about. Tucker White 94, I love how the guy who all but killed UKIP is bragging about the crowd sizes of his. I understand what he's doing. He's saying, I lost, and even I had bigger crowds than this. Again, Sargon, you weren't campaigning in a year when people were catching COVID. That was the year people like you were catching milkshakes, if you remember.
So this is pretty embarrassing, but it's not the only one. Look at this at Detroit. You can see, I'll just pan through here. This is her on this stage. Look at all the space that's filled by nobody. And everyone, I guess, appropriately social distancing. Should we be charitable and saying that's 100 people there. 100 people, wow. I mean, we could probably just manually count them all, actually, couldn't we? Probably find out it's about 60, if that. But anyway, let's just be charitable and say that she managed to muster 100 people, not including journalists with cameras, to her Detroit rally. What the hell is going on?
What could possibly be happening that tons of people around the country who believe in science aren't going outside? If only there was a clue!
She keeps having terrible interviews. I mean, this is a great screenshot I've put as a frame that I've paused on, because she just keeps having these weird outbursts and strange responses to things. Like the question here, is she presenting a socialist or progressive perspective? She laughs and goes, no. I'm a black woman with an Indian mother or father, or whichever one it was.
Tiger White 94, I know for a fact that Carl isn't this obtuse. He's so intellectually dishonest. Yeah, he is.
And I know what it's like, the lived experience of women, black people, etc. Progressive rhetoric, blah, blah, blah. Like she's been conditioned to just reflexively blurt out these pre-prepared responses in response to every single question being asked of her. And the thing is, the interviewer looks really steely-faced in this, and she's like, there's something clearly strange going on here. And I'm sure that there is. But again, like every event, now it's people chanting 4 more years at Joe Biden's events, because why not? In fact, he did one the other day in Arizona, and literally no one turned up. The news anchor's just like, well, I'll just move out the way and show you. There's literally nobody there. Like local news, it's like, well, no one's turned up. Don't know what to tell you. Not much of a rally. Like, what's going on? How am I supposed to believe that this guy's up in the polls beating the incumbent president of the United States?
Because Trump is very, very unpopular. Trump is more unpopular than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are popular. Coming from someone on the left, like I do, and I'm you know, the people I follow on Twitter and stuff are pretty much all pretty far left people. Even though we don't like Joe Biden a lot more than even most of the country, a lot of the country's like center right, or you have liberals. A lot of them are fine with Joe Biden. I don't know if anyone's like in love with Joe Biden as a candidate, but like more or less they find him okay. But even people on the left like me, like Jake, you know, a lot of people are like, hey, we don't like Joe Biden very much, but Trump is an existential threat to the future of the democracy in this country. Please vote for Joe Biden. So even though I would never go to a Biden rally, I have absolutely no reason to do so. I will continually advocate for people to vote for him, right? Because the competitor is Donald Trump, and we've had 4 years to see how Donald Trump does. Guess what? He does bad. He does real bad. Frustrating.
And then all the gaffes. I mean, this is obviously a parody article from the Babylon Bee, but I from March 2nd, 2020, so however many months ago now, 8 months ago, 7 months ago.
I'm thinking of a meme now, by the way, where it's like, Mom, can we have satire news articles? And then the mom goes, we have satire news articles at home. And then it's it's The Onion. And then it says what we actually have at home, and it's Babylon Bee. Babylon Bee wants to be The Onion so bad, but they're just not as funny. They're just not funny.
And where they're predicting that Biden will be so senile that he'll forget which president he's running against. And today, Biden came out and said, well, I'm going to beat George, referring to Trump, presumably thinking that he's running against George Bush.
Or he misspoke, Sargon. Do you think the only reason someone might say a name wrong... And by the way, if we're going to get into, like, misnaming... Guys, he supports Trump! The man who can't speak a single coherent sentence without sounding like an insane drunk uncle at Thanksgiving. But Joe Biden says a name wrong once, which everyone has done at one point or another, accidentally said someone else's name. But of course that must inevitably mean that Joe Biden actually thinks he's running against George W. Bush and not just that he misspoke once. It's so frustrating with the double standards from these people. It is so So annoying, and I hate it.
Which, I mean, he probably has done it
Tim Apple. I do remember that.
at some point in his 47-year career. I mean,
Oh, see, I didn't even know that. Baja Blast says he was speaking to George Lopez. He was referring to the person interviewing him. Okay, I didn't even know that. That makes sense. Tucker White 94 with 20 bits. To be fair to Sargon, Joe Biden has also had his share of senile gaffes. I know he has. I know. Which is why I think the fact that we have such old politicians in this country is such a disgusting problem. But the fact that Sargon, like, looks at Joe and goes, like, Joe Biden, dementia brainworms, but looks at Trump and is like, but he's the picture of health, mentally and physically, it's hypocritical. I can look at Joe Biden and be like, oh, this dude is too old. Like, this dude should not be the president. And that would be an honest answer for me as far as I see it. But I still think he's a better option than Trump. But that's not what he's saying in reverse. He's saying Joe Biden is a dementia-ridden, like senile old man, and Trump is a superhero who has the mental acuity of, like, Tony Stark. Like, this is not reality, okay? And by the way, I don't think Joe Biden has dementia or anything. I think he just misspeaks like anyone. Guys.
like, you know, give him a break. He probably can't even remember the names of all of the presidents that he has been a politician under, to be honest. And after 47 years, I probably wouldn't either. It's probably like 7 or 8 or something. But the Babylon Bee stories just keep coming. And they're meant to be parodies. And then the Biden campaign keeps doing them. Like, they're going to call a lid until election, because you may well remember that Biden was calling a lid, which means ending the day's campaigning at like 9:30 in the morning. It's like, wow. That sounds like retirement, doesn't it? It sounds like the sort of thing that maybe Sleepy Joe wants to do.
But the Sleepy Joe thing is hilarious to me, too. Like, guys, Donald Trump does not do his job. Joe Biden does do his job. This deflection is so annoying.
But then, literally, yesterday, Biden says he won't do any more campaigning in person for the remaining 9 days. Well, what's the point? I mean, no one was turning up. Why would you bother doing any campaigning with this little enthusiasm?
I don't think he needs to. Like, there's no indication that the polls have been shifting towards Trump. Actually, since the third debate, they've shifted a little bit towards Biden. Anyone who's making their mind up in the last 9 days is an idiot. Like, if you don't know at this point, what are you doing? Don't vote if you don't know at this point.
Behind you. And like I said with the
tinfoil or hot pocket. Okay, sub badges. At some point maybe I'd have to find someone to make them.
Not that one. The interviews and the general press surrounding them. It's been just disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. It's been wonderful watching Gling.
It's been disgraceful. By the way, ignore the fact, please, that Trump stormed out of a 60 Minutes interview the other day because he couldn't answer basic questions about his presidency. That XY Girl, thank you for subscribing with Prime with a 2-month streak. That XY Girl says, Carlgon speaks with a similar coherence to myself after 5 hours of peace SAT proctoring. He has no room to talk.
Greenwald, go off, King, at NBC for refusing to cover the Hunter Biden emails.
Oh my god, the Hunter Biden emails! His emails! They're real desperate for an October surprise, guys. They're trying so hard to pull a 2016 and be like, we gotta do it. And you know, I would almost respect it. It would be disgusting and immoral to manufacture some sort of October surprise. But like, if it was something creative, I'd at least be like, well, that's at least imaginative. Good job at coming up with an interesting story. But with all the might of probably some of the most devious political strategists in the world, all they can come up with is, how about more emails, guys? The emails thing worked in 2016. How about we do more emails again this time? But they're not even emails that are like from Joe Biden. They're Joe Biden's son's emails. How about that? Is that okay? Brilliant. The reason no one's taking it seriously, Sargon, is because it's completely manufactured. It's not a scandal. It's a non-scandal. Please stop. You're embarrassing yourself, which is saying a lot considering you're Carl friggin' Benjamin. Okay? Knock it off.
And the Hunter Biden emails are a treasure trove of just flat-out degeneracy, all on their own.
Degeneracy. Hashtag not a Nazi. Do people realize that when they use the term degenerate as often as people like this, comes off as real fashy? Like pretty fashy to constantly be calling people around you degenerate. Pretty gross. Tucker White 94 with 20 bits. Hell, these emails don't tell us anything new about Hunter Biden. It's just regurgitating stuff about him we already knew. Yeah.
Like, if my son turns out half as bad as Hunter Biden, I will be a failure as a father.
What do you think Sargon's kids are gonna be like when they're adults? You think they're gonna, like, be reasonable people and recognize that their dad's an absolute monster? Maybe go to social media and be like, hey, here's all the racist stuff my dad has done and said when he doesn't think other people are around. Or do you think they're gonna go full, like, yes, I am also a white nationalist, please? Will probably be, pretty depressing.
Some sort of weird crack addict getting catfished by the Chinese government when he's not being implicated in having underage pictures of his niece or cousin or whatever their relation is. Like, you know, fairly close family relation. And it's right, this is weird, incestuous, child porn, crack smoking, sex addict is what I'm looking at.
This is what they're going with for their fake October surprise. Interesting. Also don't know how it would implicate Joe Biden at all, right? Like, even if all of this was true, which I don't think it is, although Joe Biden's son did have drug addiction issues, like, none of this would make me go, oh my god, now I can't vote for Joe Biden because his son is a creep. Like, people can have kids who are creeps, and it doesn't necessarily make them a creep, right? Seems odd to me that that's the line of attack they're trying to go for on this one.
Someone who is a total slave to their emotions. Like the king of the fucking Coomers. Like this guy who just does not have his life together. A guy who's just... He looks like shit in everything. No wonder he looked so nervous when he was in, like, the... I can't remember which alphabet news agency was interviewing him doing it, but when he was asked about his being on the board of Burisma, and he looked like a guilty kid. Just like, oh god, I'm going to...
Tucker White 94 with 20 bits. At least with the Hillary Clinton emails, it contained damning info about her. What does any of this Hunter Biden stuff have to do with Joe Biden? No idea. I really don't. I don't know what they are even trying to get across with these, right? Like, if you think Hunter Biden is a creep or something, fine. I don't know really much about him as a person, but that's because he's irrelevant to me. He's exactly 100% irrelevant. He's not running for president, guys. His dad is. Like, who... It's just strange. It's such a botched attempt at a scandal. Because the emails thing in 2016, at least in terms of, like, memeability, and I don't mean like, internet meme. I mean like as an idea to spread to other people, including not only just right-wing crazy people, but like centrists and stuff like that. It's a simple narrative. Hillary Clinton stored a bunch of emails on a private server that she's not supposed to do. Simple, easy to understand. It implicates the actual candidate in some way. Fine, right? But then this one... It's just like, Hunter Biden is a bad dude. And it's like, okay, don't know if that's true or not. Don't know anything about him. But if he is, how does that implicate Joe Biden in any way? Seems odd.
Going to be found out. It's like, no, I guess I wouldn't be there if my name wasn't Biden. And now I know why. Because there's nothing to him. There's no substance to this guy. He's an addict. He's just like a professional fucking addict. It's disgusting, and it's certainly worth news coverage because it implicates him and, of course, by extension, his father, the big guy, in a whole slew of corruption around the world with various foreign governments, but they don't want to report the story because we haven't seen the sources. Well, gee, I don't want to be the last guy in the room to be like, well, about that piss dossier, then. Did we see any sources on that? No? Right.
Actually, you did. That was this very specific, it was a specific intelligence agent who leaked that. Like, that was the source on that, Sargon. Do you not remember when that happened? It was called the Steele dossier, I think, because that was, like, the name of the agent who leaked it. That's the source. Do you know what source means? Nah? Cool.
Okay, we'll just move on. Moving straight on. Of course, social media is just again, another campaigning arm of Biden's party. Joe Biden fracking ban. Like, this is amazing. Like, the whole, New York Post being shut down. I don't even know if they've got their Twitter account back yet, actually, after releasing the Hunter Biden leaks. Getting their account shut down, all of this being pulled down off social media. I'm sure that whatever disgusting thing Hunter Biden has been shown to have been doing in the past that's been released to Twitter today is being suppressed. I've seen suggestions of things I don't even want to repeat, to be honest, because they might not be true. And that's the thing. It's like, it's all so ridiculous. Like, it seems too good to be true because it seems like if you were going to make up like a movie script of how bad something could be before it finally got released to the world, screwing your underage cousin while smoking crack is pretty high on that list.
It's almost like it's a completely manufactured, made-up thing by a dumb right-wing think tank to try and make up the most damning story possible about a political candidate's son. Weird!
I mean, it sounds like something out of a movie. It sounds ridiculous. And yet...
Close to self-awareness there, Carl. Careful.
This is your son, isn't it, Joe? This is what you raised. God, man. And the text leaks. And one of there was, I don't know, I can't remember the name of the girl, one of the Biden family women who says, yeah, I was definitely abused as a kid, and she's got all of these weird things written in this diary. And I'm like, right, okay, just this is just disgusting family. Disgusting family. And you're at the head of it, Joe. It really makes you look bad. Really makes you look bad. Just saying. But
again, I ask how. How would Hunter Biden being a creep, which I have no substantiating evidence for, let me be clear, and neither does Carl. If he was, how would that implicate Joe Biden? How?
Comparison, Trump appears to be absolutely smashing it. I've been watching as many of his rallies as I can because I just enjoy watching them. They're just fun to watch. Trump should be turning on super chats. He could be funding this campaign easily if he monetized his channel. It's crazy. All of these rallies are just packed out, and they're at airports because he's obviously traveling from thing to thing, and he'll do sometimes 2 a day, it seems. And he just pulls up on the plane, gets out, starts shit posting with the crowd, starts talking to them, telling jokes, a few, sensible political statements that he's reading from the teleprompters, but mostly he's just chilling out, having fun.
Yeah, this is like the only time Trump has been happy, Sargon, in the last 4 years. He thrives on this attention from his weird cult-like fan base. He needs a group of people, sycophantic people, who are going to thrive and suckle on his every word, and he tells a bad joke, and they all, they're uproarious in laughter, and they chant, lock her up, or lock him up, even though it's 2020, and he's like, yeah, these are my people. Like, yeah, Carl, they're crazy people. They're crazy people, Carl. It's frustrating.
Genuinely,
Tucker White 94, because as we all know, children turn out like their parents and aren't at all are not at all individuals. Yeah, stupid. Guarstone Skin, thank you for subscribing. 6-month streak. Trump's family are terrible. His daughter used her connections to get business contracts in China. F Trump and his whole family. There's tons, and that's the thing I don't get. Like, if you want to talk about the families of the candidates, we can do that. And it actually makes sense to talk about with Trump because he put his children in his administration. They're working for the current administration. So you can talk about their record and how it's basically nepotism got them a job at the White House. Like, we can talk about that stuff. I just don't find it to be a productive avenue of discussion as much as it would be if we just talked about, like, the issues, the things Trump has and has not done, the things Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have claimed they will do with their platform. Like, just seems odd. It just seems very strange to me that you could find so little on Joe Biden to hit at. Because you're on the right. Like, if I'm going to talk about Joe Biden, I could talk about crime bill stuff or more fiscal conservative stuff that he's done, right? But those are things that people on the right like, so they can't really hit him on that stuff. Otherwise, it's almost an endorsement to people on the right. So they gotta make stuff up. But they couldn't even think of a convincing lie about Joe, because he's so... because he's so bland. He's just a very, like, milquetoast white dude. Talks about his old friend Corn Pop. You know, like, he's just a weird old grandpa type. So they gotta make shit up about Hunter Biden. It's just a complete dead-on-arrival attempt to slander him. It's very strange.
Seeming to enjoy himself. The crowd seemed thrilled to be there, and the crowds are enormous. Like on one of the events, they were like, they had a view from the plane or something like that, or a drone or something that was going ahead, and you could see the crowd snaking, like this thick, long snake of the crowd going back.
Yes, Sargon, we talked about this. The reason the crowds for Trump are so big is because Trump's base is absolutely, what's the word I even want to say? They are rabid to suckle on him. And I'm not even just talking about his private parts. I mean, they'll just get around him and just any little bit of him that they can get. It's very weird. It's very, very weird how devoted they are to him. And it makes me very uncomfortable. Secondly, they don't take COVID seriously. People on the right, like, go from thinking it's not that serious to... it's an outright, like, conspiracy caused by them, and that they're going to, like, they're trying to tank Trump's election by pretending that 200,000 people have died, even though 200,000 people have died. So yeah, they're going to be more likely to show up to rallies and stuff, even though they really, really shouldn't. It's not indicative of the general population in the United States, if you even want to say there is such a thing, because obviously there's going to be great variance from state to state and area within state to state. But, like, don't look at Trump rallies and assume that that's indicative of the general populace, because it's not. It's indicative of, like, the 10% of his followers that are, like, absolutely bonkers crazy for him. The people who actually wear the MAGA hats out in public and don't feel like they're pieces of shit. Like, those people will stick with him no matter what. Seek Joe Cool, thank you for gifting 2 subs. Appreciate it. Stephen J. Neptune Man with 20 bits. Republicans, take responsibility for your own actions. Also Republicans. Hunter Biden being bad means Joe Biden is bad. Philosophy Light, I'm excited for politics to be boring again. Me too. Honestly, oh god. After Biden gets inaugurated, I might take just like a week off of politics. Just because I know I can. It'll be nice. It'll be nice and calm. And then we can get back and, you know, criticize Joe Biden for his centrist takes. But after that, at least I'm not worried that a nuke's going to get set off randomly, you know?
And then the area that they've organized is just packed to the gills. And this just keeps happening over and over and over in just all these different places. As you can see from these being taken at like different times of the day and night.
Oh, we watched that the other day.
It's like constant. Wherever he's going, he's getting these massive rallies. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are getting almost nobody. Like, nobody is showing up. Where is the energy? If you didn't poll, it would be obvious who's going to win this.
Very scientific, Sargon. Look at all these people in the stands. That's not how you determine things, Sargon. That's not how you determine who's going to vote and who they're going to vote for. That's an incredibly... And I say this not out of, like, hate or anything, but just, like, you need to, like, not do this because this is going to lead you down a path of incredible disappointment if Joe Biden wins. And you're going to be like, well, I don't understand. There were so many yard signs for Trump, and the rallies were so big. And it's like, well, yeah, but that didn't really take into account all the people who were staying home because of the virus, and also those who really, really hate Donald Trump and just want to get him out, even if it means Joe Biden is the president. I don't know. Again, Trump could win. Go vote, please. Go vote for Joe Biden, right? Like, I'm not going to tell you it's in the bag for Biden. It isn't. Like, it's a close enough race that it could go either way. But what I am saying is, looking at the rallies and trying to determine information from that is a stupid way to do it. There's a reason we have scientific polling. It's because what you look at, like, just in your own narrow field of view, is not going to give you in-depth, valid information in any way, shape, or form. Towing24 with 30 bits. This is why I'm mostly okay with Biden beating Bernie or Warren, because then Trump could just re-socialist and scare the boomer centrists, even with COVID murdering their friends and family. I understand Biden as a strategic move. I understand. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it. I could think you could get a similar advantage by getting people who don't normally vote to come out and vote if we had someone like Bernie and have him be like, hey, we're going to make sure you have health care, we're going to get you college, we're going to, get rid of your college debt, such, popular ideas that don't get covered by mainstream politicians, basically going populist, but like left-wing populism. You could probably bring out a lot of people who don't normally vote for that, but you would lose a lot of boomers and you would lose a lot of centrists, so I don't know. I don't know what the actual polling numbers on, like, stuff like that would be. I'd imagine the DNC knows, though. Philosophy Light with 69 bits. Nice. Good polls are causing a Biden lead, just like COVID testing is making people more sick. Ethan Sharf 67. Thank you for subscribing with a tier 1 subscription. Appreciate it.
Right? If it wasn't for the polls, there would be no doubt in your mind that your lying eyes wouldn't have any contradiction. And then you get all of the ethnic minority groups that are self-identifying as these groups and saying, X for Trump. There have been like big.
Oh no! He's falling for the like Latinos for Trump meme, or the like African Americans for Trump meme. Don't do it, Sargon. It's not gonna happen.
Car rallies in like Florida and Hawaii, like LA and all this sort of thing. Then you get like the Jews for Trump rally in Manhattan. This was amazing to watch. I watched some of the clips of it, and it's these really Orthodox Jews, with the curls and the all the sort of Orthodox Jew regalia, with these huge Trump flags, just be like, "Fuck you," because Cuomo's targeting them.
No, oh my God. Okay, here's what he's talking about. The Hasidic Jew community in New York City have been ignoring COVID guidelines, like, pretty hardcore. Not wearing masks, going to, like, synagogue and stuff, even when they're not supposed to. Again, this is not targeting them. It's just that, like, all church services and public gatherings over a certain amount, there's limitations and guidelines that you're supposed to follow. The Hasidic community has not been doing so. They've been openly ignoring it. And yeah, the mayor of New York isn't happy about it for obvious reasons. They're endangering other people and themselves. Sargon and a bunch of other right-wing idiots have been like, oh my God, the New York mayor is targeting Hasidic Jews. And it's like, no, they just need to follow the rules like everyone else. Jesus Christ. It has nothing to do with their religion or their ethnicity. It has zero to do with it. Guys, you just need to take the virus seriously.
Because they're...
If Biden wins and we get a national mask mandate, I cannot wait for all the freaking out these people are going to do. It's going to be insane.
Violating coronavirus lockdowns, as if they don't have a constitutional right to assemble or something.
If it's a public health crisis, no, they don't necessarily have that right. You can limit in situations like this, like, hey, you can't have public gatherings more than a certain amount. That's a thing you can do, Sargon.
Unreal. And so we come to other polling, I guess we'll say, because there are a bunch of polling groups who poll Trump more favorably than Biden. And when
Oh, check this out. Trafalgar Group. I tweeted about this the other day. So, Trafalgar Group are hacks. They're absolute hacks. Their crosstabs got leaked. And basically their polling is complete bunk. They're starting with a result that they would like, that being that Trump will win, and they're working backwards to fit their sample size to make it look like Trump is winning, even though every other pollster says otherwise, at least in places like Michigan. Florida's more of a toss-up. Toeen24, they're the same people that caused herpes outbreaks amongst infants because they still did old Jewish customs with the rabbi sucking the blood from the child's brisses and circumcisions. Yes, I remember when that happened. We talked about it on TVR. So basically, the Trafalgar poll found just ridiculous stuff once their crosstabs leaked. Basically, their poll assumes, and I'm not making this up, their poll assumes that 30% of registered Democrats are going to vote for Trump, which is absurd. That is absurd. And their poll assumes that roughly 30% of the black vote is going to go to Trump. And when asked about this, the founder of the Trafalgar Group said, and I'm not making this up, their reasoning that they think 30% of the African-American vote is going to go to Trump is because 50 Cent, the rapper who hasn't been relevant in over a decade, endorsed Trump, which, by the way, was retracted, I think, the next day. But even so, that's why. Trafalgar Group is ridiculous. Let me see what else we got. Tucker White 2094. 20 bits. FYI, the freedom of assembly rights has limits. For example, when your assembly gets to a certain size, then you need a permit to hold the gathering. Yep. Hannah Simp, thank you for subscribing with Prime. Cool name. Philosophy Light. Wow. Leave it to evangelicals to start with the conclusion and work backwards. Yeah, so, anyway, Trafalgar Group is, ridiculous. Partisan polling. Do not take them seriously, please. Antipodian Squid with 100 bits. Guys, I was just in line with other people in a queue for coffee, an actual queue with other real-life actual people. Other people exist. Yeah, it's probably been a while, huh?
Whenever I deal with the leftists on Twitter, there's a known poll that skews right-wing.
Yes, which I just talked about, Sargon. Sargon, do you think 30% of the African-American vote is going to go to Trump? Really? He's going to outperform every Republican candidate in the last 40 years in the black community. Donald Trump. Cool. Cool story. At Colston with 20 bits. They really do think that black people are dumb, huh? People like Ben Carson and 50 Cent are seen as, nope. In the black community, no one likes them. Yeah. Ugh.
Okay, but they are winning all of the elections at the moment, aren't they? I mean, it's not the left-wingers winning these elections, is it? So, I don't know. Maybe the polls you're paying attention to that confirm your biases are wrong, and maybe these ones that suggest that the incumbent president, who appears to be widely appreciated by the people who support him, is more popular than the people who don't.
By the people who support him is the important phrase in that statement. Trump has a rabid fan base, but the fan base is not widespread. Donald Trump has, approval numbers have not been high his entire presidency. Even at their height, they were barely breaking even, I think. Donald Trump is not a popular president. The people who like him love him in a very creepy, culty way. But the general public, no, I think most people are frustrated by Trump at this point. Hello, Daddy Sume, welcome.
Bother to turn up for Joe Biden's rallies. I mean, it's just a thought. But Rasmussen has got this commentary they put out today, and this is what inspired this video.
Rasmussen, another right-wing poller, tends to lean right. Not as bad as Trafalgar Group, but yeah, they do tend to lean right.
Yeah, because I don't want to say, Rasmussen are right because they agree with me, but I think they raise some good points here, and what they agree with is the evidence of my own eyes. Joe Biden appears to have a zombie campaign. He seems to be just running in name only. He seems to have support in name only. But Trump seems to have genuine grassroots, tangible support of people who are going out there, even when it's not the popular thing to do, like Jews for Trump, and they got attacked by Antifa. Once again, the socialists are attacking the Jews. What a shock. Because they're making decisions.
Jesus Christ, Sargon. I'd say you're off base, but you're not even in the right ballpark. Again, Sargon, the reason that the people in the Hasidic community were getting criticized for what they were doing is because they weren't following mask mandates and rules for gatherings meant to protect them and others during the pandemic. It has nothing to do, Sargon, again, with their ethnicity or their religion. Stop being so obtuse. Goth Geek Gaming, thank you for subscribing. Goth Geek Gaming says, don't really have anything to say except I have loved your content since your pre-camera days. Keep up the good work, Hannah. Thank you.
But anyway, so I can't bring myself to believe the polls.
There's nothing funny about
Rasmussen obviously claimed to be one of the most accurate, but who knows?
Philosophy Light with 20 bits. Look it up. Trump's highest approval rating was 49%. Yeah.
They've got some other polls that they talk about in this, though, that are really interesting. Let me just find them. So, Gallup...
Let's look at polls real quick to see where they're at today. Sargon's video was like 3 days ago, so let's take a look. 5:38. Latest polls. Poll types, presidential general election, please. Let's see. General election. This one's Arizona, which has Trump +4. It's Rasmussen, so it's going to tend to lean a little right. And it's they give ratings to the polls based on their accuracy, by the way, on here too. Oh, we're on a hype train. Thank you. 75% to level 1. Abby, my dudes with 200 bits. Don't have anything to say. Maybe you can watch the new Michael Bay movie trailer on your next Captain Cringe. Oh, God. Okay. Captain Rose with 20 bits. My mom is an extreme Zionist who legitimately believes in so many conspiracy theories that if she understood how they came about, she'd be horrified by the anti-Semitism in the circles she listens to. We're Salvadorian. The Latinos for Trump group is sadly not a meme. It terrifies me. Yeah. I know they exist, but it's not like a majority. Antipodian Squid with 300 bits. Oh, hype. Thank you. Anyway, back at the polls. Let's see, Texas, Trump +4. The polls in Texas have been, like, surprisingly close this cycle. I don't think Texas is going to go blue. You would need the most insane convergence of all sorts of different factors for that to happen. But it is interesting that it's so close. I think Texas is averaging... Let me take a look, actually. 538... You can look by state. Let me see where Texas is at. Trump +4, Trump +1, Trump +4, even Biden, Trump +5, Trump +3. But, like, it's way closer than it has historically been. I think they're saying that by sometime in 2030, Texas will go blue at least once in one, like, election, which is interesting. The demographics of Texas are changing quite a bit as people move from more liberal areas or more left-leaning areas to Texas for tons of tech-related jobs. Ooh, Stone Core Bell, thank you for gifting 5 Tier 1 subs. Appreciate it. Philosophy Light, hype, 200 bits. Mitchell Drummer with 20 bits. By the way, for those of you playing bingo, we have degenerate misreading and misreading study and grifting.
There's nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Let me see if there's anything else that I missed. I don't think so. Cool. 50% level 3 hype train.
There's nothing funny about the tools of
But anyway, the fact that Biden has basically a 1 in 3 chance of winning Texas is crazy. I don't think he will, but the fact that it's that close is pretty bonkers. Georgia, we have a Biden +2. Ohio, Trump +2. Rasmussen has Biden +1 in Ohio, which is interesting. They tend to lean right, so that actually probably means Biden's up a little bit more. The Morning Consult, which is a BC poll, has Biden up 9 in Ohio. Alaska, of course, is plus Trump. Oh, that's weird. This poll has bought Trump plus 9 in Alaska, but this one has Trump or Biden plus 5. That is a huge difference. That's terrible. One of those polls is awful. I'm guessing the Biden one because Alaska, like, always goes red, I think. Did I miss something? I thought I heard a thing. Nope, didn't miss it. Okay. New Hampshire, we got a Biden plus 19, Biden plus 4, Biden plus 6. Florida, Biden plus 4. Ooh, A plus polls, too. Nice. Biden plus 4, plus 6, plus 5 in Florida. If he wins Florida, we got it, guys. We're probably got it. A bunch more Florida ones, plus 6, plus 5. Alabama. Is this Alabama? Trump plus 19.
Funny about the tools of capitalism.
Florida, Biden plus 5. Florida, Biden plus 4. Maine, Biden plus 13. You get it. It's a lot of Biden. A lot of Biden stuff in the state polling. Not all of it, but a decent amount. It's quite interesting. I obsess over polls, though, which you shouldn't do. It's not healthy.
Finds Trump's poll improved.
The Undercover Beast with 100 bits. I feel like I need to review the old chick tract Sargon was on. It feels like he's so far gone from back then. Sargon, if you will.
Job approval rating at 46%, close to his all-time high of 49% earlier this year. And when asking a question of not who you want to win, instead who you think will win, Trump tops Biden 56% to 40, 16% point lead.
That's not a helpful metric of who will win, though, Sargon. You understand that? Like, if you're asking people who you want to win in a poll, that's indicative of the general public's voting pattern. If you ask them who they think is going to win, that has no bearing on... That gives you no helpful information, basically. It gives you no helpful information if 16% extra people think Trump is going to win. Because if I'm asked that question, I might even say Trump, but I'm certainly not going to vote for him, and I'm going to do my best to make sure other people vote for Biden. Like, why do you think that people thinking Trump will win is somehow indicative that he will? Like, people are just scared that he's going to win again, because in 2016, the polls were, like, way off, and it was just, like, a crazy snafu where, like, 70,000 votes across a certain number of states flipped it to him. People are afraid the same thing will happen again.
Just not who would you
Philosophy Light, as an Alabaman, yeah. I don't know what that was in relation to.
like to win. Who do you think's going to? And yeah, more people think Trump's going to win. I think Trump's going to win. I keep hearing all these messages of people going, man, I live in a blue district and I'm seeing Trump signs everywhere. You know, it's like...
Again, guys, you can't. You can't do that. You can't look at signs and say, especially in one specific area, because specific areas of the country, regardless of where you are going to lean one way or another, you know? Like, unless you literally live in a county somewhere that's, like, very, very, very 50-50. You can't do that. Unless you can literally count every yard sign in your state, you're not going to get any sort of accurate picture. And even then you're not, because guess what? Most people don't put political signs out. Like, it's the most childish way to view trying to determine who's going to win an election. Like, guys, this is the reason we have scientific polling. So you don't have to make these dumb assumptions. Tanthier, thank you for gifting a sub. Tucker White 94 with 20 bits. Yeah, I'm sure he's getting calls that blue people are seeing Trump signs. I'm sure this totally happened.
Saying, I don't know. When asked, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? 56% of registered voters said yes, compared to 32% saying no. And this is even with the coronavirus. So there are lots of other reasons to think that maybe the just aggregate of polls done is actually not indicative of who's going to win. Now, I might have to eat these words. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm not saying Trump definitely, but it just seems by all of these sort of revealed preferences that the things that people put energy into that they want.
I think we got level 2, so I'll put 2 hats on. Oh no, you walked in on Hannah and Sargon. Don't worry, we're almost done with Sargon. Ooh.
To do that Joe Biden's support is hypothetical, Well, Trump's appears to be absolutely concrete. And
what does that even mean? Hypothetical? It's not hypothetical when people go and vote, Sargon. What are you talking about?
I just can't help but think that he's going to win. I know I'm probably going to make another video like this leading up to the election because of all of the stuff that comes out. And yet, we're supposed to believe that Joe Biden, almost a fucking literal zombie at this point, is supposed to be a shoo-in to win this. I think that the left is setting
Tucker White 94, did you enjoy the Hannah and Sargon peep show? Oh, Jesus.
themselves up for a catastrophic defeat. I think that they're actually going to get really kicked in this time. Like, it won't just be Trump wins. I think it'll be Trump landslide this time. And that is what I would prefer, but
No.
it's not because I
Trump
would
may win. He may very well. Obviously, that's a possibility. I have no confidence that it would be a landslide, though. It would be another situation where he'll lose the popular vote and end up winning due to a very small number of votes in key states. That's pretty much his path to victory at this point. Logarth, thank you for subscribing with a 5-month streak.
prefer it than I'm saying it. Because if I genuinely thought that Trump wasn't winning this, then I would say, look, guys, I'm 100% MAGA here, but I don't think Trump's going to win. I think Trump's got no hope. Look, he's got hardly any crowds. You know, he's down in the polls. Even if he was up in the polls, I'm like, hey, he's got no crowds. You know, if his merch wasn't selling, like, Trump's merch sells like 100 times better than Biden's. You know, it's like...
Again, because right-wing people who are into Trump are crazy cultists who make Trump their identity. People on the left don't make the politicians they like their entire identity. The closest you get to that is people who are like way too into Bernie. And I voted for Bernie. I like Bernie, but there are some people who are like really into Bernie to an unhealthy level. It's not even close to people who are into Trump. They make that shit their entire identity. They fly Trump flags. They wear the MAGA hats. They talk about it all the time.
There's nothing funny.
Merch sales are not indicative of who's going to win the election. Jeez. Wind Chanter, my depression let up today. Have some celebration bits. Thank you. I'm glad you're feeling better. Tucker White 94, with how divided this country is now, I doubt we'll ever see a presidential landslide again, at least not a Roosevelt or Reagan-esque landslide. I'm sure someday, if the United States continues to exist in its roughly current form in the next 100 years, it'll probably happen. But in this exact political climate, yeah, I'd agree. Antipodian Squid, also lefties buy Trump merch, ironically. Nah, I don't think enough to make a difference to their bottom line or anything.
It's mad. Joe Biden doesn't represent anyone, apart from Joe Biden, of course. Which is incidentally what Kamala Harris kind of gave away at a rally that she did.
Shady Shroomy with 20 bits. If we aren't, I love If we all aren't I love Obama, girl, we're gonna lose.
I think it was yesterday. I watched about the first half an hour of it, and it was really interesting how, I mean, it was boring, obviously, and she is not very...
This candidate isn't dog whistling at all. I'm so bored.
charismatic person, in my opinion. Like, her likability was clearly very low just in the Democratic primaries. You know, wasn't she at like 5% by the time she dropped out and topped at 15%? It's like, that's hardly... I mean, you would have done better with Pete Buttigieg. But she said something really interesting, and I found this to be fascinating. She began her speech by saying, "Are you all going to win this for us?" I was like, oh. The framing is interesting. Because at Trump's rallies, he's not saying this. He's saying things like, you know, I fight for you, the American people. He'll say, like, oh, you're lucky to have me. But I think that's a kind of boomerism, to be honest.
No, that's a narcissistism. That's narcissism. You're thinking of narcissism.
But he
And also, Trump's actions don't back up the platitudes. Sargon, they don't.
puts himself very firmly in the sort of position as if he's standing shoulder to shoulder, rhetorically, with the people who have come to see him. And that, I think, is the main difference. Why people like Trump and why nobody gives a shit about Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. But anyway, like I said, my lying eyes, they just keep deceiving me. If you'd like to support the channel, you can always...
Tucker White 94, the difference is that unlike Trump, Kamala Harris was being honest when she said win this for us. Yeah.
Please check out our merch store where we recommend that you elect more Democrats. Because that's gone so well, hasn't it? You know, I bet the Trump campaign has got some punchy adverts that they're about to launch on everyone. And I bet they've been launching loads. I just haven't been able to follow them because I don't live in America, and so I don't get.
You know the best thing about having ad blocker and also paying for stuff like YouTube Premium, where I never get ads ever, and I, use Netflix and Hulu and stuff. I don't have cable. I've not seen a single political ad this year that I didn't intentionally watch. Holy crap, how do people deal with that shit? It's so annoying. Maya is bored of 20 bits. Hannah, you look good tonight. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Exposed to just like generic American media. But no, I really mean this. I don't understand what people think that the Democrats are going to bring that's going to be good. It seems that they're just liars, just total liars. Here's a fantasy. Will you sell it? Great. We're going to sell a lot. We're going to sell a lot to China. We're going to make a lot of money here, but you just have to do this for us, and then we'll do nothing for you. As what was it, Ice Cube found out? He's like, well, we'll talk about your plans after the election, whereas the Trump campaign were like, right, let's have a talk now. Anyway, see you in the next video, folks.
Windchanter with 20 bits. MSNBC did a segment asking young women of color about Kamala, and they were flabbergasted when they said she hadn't earned their vote simply by being a woman of color. Yeah, that's stupid. Obviously, that's not the case. People don't vote for people just because they're the same race as them, unless you're, like, dumb. Like, even people who voted for, like, Obama, and, like, it's important, like, oh, the first black president. That's, like, a interesting, important historical moment, but, like, if Obama was, like, a complete shitbag, that wouldn't have been good, and I don't think he would have gotten the votes that he got. There's stuff to criticize about Obama, but he's not, like, an absolute piece of trash like Trump, so. Anyway, so that's Sargon. Basically just another thing where he says he doesn't trust polls. I understand that the polling in 2016 was inaccurate due to their undersampling of non-college educated white people. They've said that they fixed that this year. We'll see what happens when the results come out. But Biden's lead is more sizable than Hillary's was. The polls aren't tightening in the same way, and none of the fake scandals that Republicans are trying to push are gaining traction, like, anywhere, the same way that the her emails thing did back in the day. So I don't know, barring some pretty crazy stuff in the next 5 days, something crazy could happen. But barring that, I don't know. I'm relatively confident Joe will win. We'll see, though. We'll see. It'll be interesting. We'll see what happens, guys.